Hello there, this is James Scrofty, 1978, and even if I weren't an intersectional third-wave feminist and a social justice activist, it would be impossible for me to ignore the reality that every time anyone ever attempts to raise the issue of discrimination against women and or people of colour, they have always been dismissed with one of the same 4 points over and over and over again. Either number one, has there been a single case in which a woman and or person of colour has been directly discriminated against solely because they were female and or not white? No, then there was no discrimination by the most concrete literal definition, the only kind that counts or even exists. And even if we can prove direct discrimination, those cases are inevitably dismissed as being isolated because the assumption remains that either number two, the wider discrepancies in society are quote-unquote natural, or number three, they are the result of individual choices, and either way, number four, why aren't you paying equal attention to the suffering of white men, you misandric reverse racist pig? In response to which, of course, we do our very best to explain concepts such as privilege and systemic oppression, which are summed up in the 30-second activism videos, links down in the underbar, struggling to help them grasp the fact that it's not that simple, and almost always failing to do so. So in the hopes of demonstrating the self-poning flaw in and the self-righteous hypocrisy of that position, showing rather than telling, imagine that the issue at hand is the fact that the overwhelming majority of homeless people are male, and that we as intersectional third-wave feminists and social justice activists responded in exactly the same manner, demanding A. Has there ever been a single case in which a man or boy was made homeless, or an already homeless man or boy was denied housing solely because he was male? No, then there is no discrimination based on gender. B. The discrepancies are quote-unquote natural, or C. the result of individual choices, and either way, D. Even though they are smaller in number, why aren't you paying equal attention to homeless women, trans and non-binary individuals, you misogynistic, transphobic scum? Of course, in defiance of that 4-point mantra, the reality is that while anyone could be made homeless at any time, regardless of their gender or any other factor, the patriarchal pressure on men to be the provider, to never ask for help, and for society as a whole to dismiss any man as a worthless loser of no value to society if he fails in that role, means that yes, men are more likely to be made homeless, making this another example of how dismantling the patriarchy benefits everyone, including us as men. So does this help you to understand that ultimately, as I stated earlier, it's not that simple? That if the only thing we recognise as being discrimination is taking direct action motivated solely by malice, and everything else is the result of nature or individual choice, ignoring all other social factors and nuance of any kind, then all claims that men are discriminated against and or oppressed are equally null and void. And more importantly as well, does turning the tables in this fashion help you to understand that the only reason to make points 1 through 4 at all is to shut down the issue in an effort to maintain the status quo? That in the end, beyond the explanation I've just given, the reason why we as intersectional third-wave feminists and social justice activists don't make this kind of argument unless we're deliberately doing so to point out the self-serving hypocrisy and fatal flaw in this non-logic, is that we actually want to change society to make it more fair and equal for everyone, including straight white cis men like myself, not keep things as they are simply because it feels more comfortable, or worse, regress to someone's self-serving idea of what society used to or should be. After all, if anyone were to sincerely respond so dismissively to any article, video, post, hashtag, or anything else about homeless men, the terrifyingly high rate of suicide amongst men, the fact that men are more likely to die at work, the fact that men are more likely to receive harsher sentences after being convicted of exactly the same crime, or any other so-called men's rights issue, all of which could be dismissed or shut down just as easily by making at least one of the same 4 points, by the way, then countless people would be justifiably outraged, precisely because, as I've hopefully now demonstrated, the only reason to make such non-arguments is to shut down the issue, to shout down any attempt to change society, thus maintaining the status quo, simply because change makes us feel uncomfortable, threatened, and insecure. And yet, as I indicated at the beginning of this video, when talking about the plight of women and or people of colour, such close-minded dismissiveness is the automatic, reflexive, knee-jerk response for countless millions, both online and in real life.